Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in the PELE YOETZ, and as he teaches us all about the holiday of Purim. And we left off yesterday understanding that the reading of the Megillah is the first of the mitzvos that he speaks about, and the understanding that the Mikra Megillah, the reading of the Megillah, is what's called Pirsumi Nisa. It is publicizing the miracles which took place to the Jewish people at the time of the Purim story itself. And therefore a person should be careful to hear every single word, every letter, every understanding that they possibly can get. So it'll be mechazik, it'll strengthen within them the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrought for our nation. And therefore he said, be careful, try to listen as carefully as possible. You don't want to lose a word, you don't want to lose a letter that was said. Otherwise, perhaps a person doesn't fulfill the obligation in the best possible way. And then he writes, Mitam zeh, because of this, if the Balkari, the one that lanes, that reads the Megillah, has already fulfilled his obligation, which is very common. You have multiple Megillah readings in a shul. They read at night, let's say, the first time during Mariv, and then they make another reading later on around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and then sometimes they even have a later one, or sometimes people go to people's homes after they already read the Megillah in shul. They go and they bring to people that are sick or invalid, that can't get out of the house, women that just gave birth, women that can't get to shul, they have little babies, so they come and they read in the home. So what do you do then at that point? Do you say a bracha on the reading of the Megillah or not? Says the PELE YOETZ, Ein Roy, and now he's going around to other places reading for other people. Anoshim, whether it's men or women. Ein roy levarich bracha b'shem u'malchus b'shvilam. The Balkari, the one that's reading the Megillah, should not make a bracha on the Megillah with Hashem's name. Why? Because he should be concerned that maybe the people that are listening to him will lose out on a word or so. And it comes out then that the blessing that the Balkar, that the one who's laning made, is what's called a bracha levatala. It is a blessing that was said for naught, because the mitzvah was not fulfilled in the best possible way. Now, when you go to shul, you'll see different shuls have different minhagim, and some of them, yes, the one who's reading the Megillah will make the bracha, and sometimes it's the people that are in the crowd who need to fulfill the obligation. They will be the ones that make the bracha, but the prevailing custom today is a bracha most likely will be made even when the person who's reading the Megillah already fulfilled his own obligation. Just we see from the words of the PELE YOETZ how careful a person has to be, that when somebody else is helping them fulfill the mitzvah of reading the Megillah by listening to it from somebody else, make sure that you hear every single word that's being said. And he concludes this paragraph with V'yadua, it's known. Shegam hanoshim chayavos b'mitzvos hayoyim hazeh ka'anoshim. Women are also obligated in the mitzvahs of Purim just like the men. Now what is he referring to? We know that we have a concept in Shas, and that is throughout the Talmud and the Shulchan Aruch, that mitzvahs that are time-bound, positive mitzvahs, mitzvahs aseh shazman gram, a time-bound, positive mitzvah, women are normally patur, they are normally exempt from performing. And the reason, because women, Baruch Hashem, are very often very busy. They're busy in the home, they're busy with taking care of the children, they're busy with many of the details that a woman has in her life, and therefore she cannot be expected on a time-bound mitzvah to always be available, and therefore the Torah gives her a dispensation that she's exempt, she doesn't have to fulfill the mitzvah. However, when it comes to the story of Purim, as the Gemara tells us, since Avheim Hayaba'isanes, they were also included in the great miracles that Hashem made for the Jewish people. So therefore it's only appropriate that they should also have an obligation to perform the mitzvahs and fulfill them as well. And therefore he writes, a woman also has to be very particular and careful to make sure that she fulfills the mitzvahs of Purim in the proper way, which would mean that she has to be either in shul at night or during the day to hear the Megillah being read, or at least she has to arrange for someone to come and lay the Megillah for her in the house, or sometimes they have in other people's homes readings for the women, so that they should be able to gather at a time that's more convenient, maybe when the kids are sleeping or the like. But a woman should make sure that just as a man fulfills the reading of the Megillah at night of Purim and during the day of Purim, a woman has to do the same exact thing. Otherwise, she loses out on the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah, of the reading of the Megillah, which she will fulfill by hearing it being read by somebody else. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll continue in the beautiful words of the PELE YOETZ and Purim next week, Be'ezus Hashem.